Come on with me. Run quick, see. La 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 la. Let's get it started, man. Today, tonight, maybe day where you are, I will be reading until I don't feel like reading anymore. And this is just for my own self. Ah, and what I will be reading is The Art of Sun Tzu. Wait, no, I straight butchered that, bro. Forgive me, God. The Art of War, Sun Tzu. This is what we will be reading tonight. And I'm just trying to occupy myself while I'm waiting on some cash to hit. Um, it's a really exciting thing when you're about to get paid, isn't it? So this book has roughly 207 pages of content to read, and maybe pictures that I will be showing uh, throughout the book. Maybe not show the pictures, but I'll just be reading. Got a couple of illustrations on here. So the contents. About 13 chapters. You can see that, but there's 13 chapters. You can screenshot that if you want to see what the chapters are. And we will be starting with the introduction on page 7. As illustrated, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, is probably the earliest known treatise on war and military science. It is certainly the most influential, essential reading for strategists in the East since ancient times. It is thought that Napoleon read The Art of War when a new edition was published in Paris in 1782. Okay. It was also picked up by two great military theorists who studied Bonaparte's methods, the Persian Karl von Clausewitz, um, whose On War was published posthumously. Let's look at I say that word. I just straight fuck it up. They say post hum loosely. Like what? Speak posthumously. Posthumously. What the fuck? Yeah, I was never gonna say that. Posthumously. Now I know. Posthumously. Let's see one more time. Posthumously. 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 Yeah, I was never gonna say that right, bro. Posthumously, I'm still not saying it right. In 1832, in the French General Baron Antoine Henry de Gemoni, whose summary of the art of war appeared in 1838. So, from 1782 to 1838. to, to 30. What we looking at, man? That's a lot of shit went on. Revolutionary War. I was, I was trying to read up on ancient war strategies. I just, that shit wasn't working. Or it was. Sweet. Fucking 106 years apart, man. They still on this. Man. Ain't no telling when he was on this though. You know what I'm talking about? Like this dude is probably strategizing, taking off heads way back. You know what I'm talking about? Like before we go, who knows, bro? Like let's look it up. Man. When did Sun Tzu live? Like when was his time? Let's do some research. Sun Tzu. BC. That's exactly what I was thinking. This man was taking off heads before Christ. The man was chopping shit before Christ in 17. Not no 17 in 771 to 256 BC. Is that even a real time? Did this time frame even exist? You know what I'm saying? You know? Man, oh, that's the introduction. That's who this guy is, Sun Tzu, a guy who lived a long, a long, a very, very long time ago. A very long time ago. And it says also he influenced where the pre-World War two theorist of tank warfare, General John Fuller and B.H. Liddell Hart. Okay. And consequently, the German Panzer leaders. All right. We're still in the introduction, including the Heinz Guderian who devoured their work. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, victor of El Alamein and commander of land forces on D-Day, wrote extensively on the art of war in his monumental A History of Warfare. His great revival, General George Patton, is thought to have read Sun Tzu as a teenager in the Virginia Military Institute before he went to West Point. General Douglas MacArthur and Joseph Stalin were also said to have been fans of Sun Tzu. The Art of War was adopted as a handbook on guerrilla warfare by Mao Zedong, Fidel Castro, and Vo Nguyen Giap, the Vietnamese strategist who beat the French and the Americans in Indochina. And according to U.S. Marine Corps General Paul K. Van Riper, it influenced the planning of Operation Desert Storm. What a fucking revelation. The first mention of Sun Tzu as a great military strategist was made in passing by the Taoist philosopher Hanan Zhu, who died in 122 BC. See now this is when it. I guess this is when it starts for this guy. The Zhu here is, as in case of Sun Tzu, is an honorific that means master. Sun Tzu, master son, is known more commonly in the literature by his personal name, Sun Wu. The Wu might be a nickname as it means military. The surname Sun was said to have been bestowed on Sun Tzu's grandfather, by Duke Xing of Qiqi, was Sun Tzu's home state, which he fled after rebellion. Sun Tzu should have called himself Chang Xing. This was so-called style, a new name Chinese males of that era adopted of the age of 20. It says Sun Tzu fled from Qi to the nearby state of Wu, where the great Han historian Suma Qian says from 145 to 85 BC. Um, we're going to do some research on that BC shit. I don't really understand the time frame anymore. I never did, I guess. The art of war brought him to the attention of Ho, Ho Lu, the king of Wu. This must have been before 512 BC. As Suma Xian also records that Sun Tzu was with Holu when Wu attacked the kingdom of Chu that year. Suma Qian also related the story of how Sun Tzu convinced the king of his military prowess. I have carefully pursued your 13 chapters, said Holu, king of Wu. May I submit your theory of managing soldiers to a slight test? Sun Tzu replied, You may, you may, you may. I'm trying to say it in like a Japanese. You may, you may, you may. Holu asks, May the test be applied to women? The answer again was yes. So arrangements were made to bring 180 ladies out of the palace. Sun Tzu divided them into two companies. And from whence? Placing one of the king's favorite concubines at the head of each, he then asked them to all take spears in their hand and said, I presume you know the difference between front and back, right hand and left hand. The women replied, Yes. When I say eyes front, you must look straight ahead. Sun Tzu continued. When I say left turn, you must face toward your left hand. When I say right turn, you must face towards your right hand. When I say about turn, you must face right round towards your back. Having explained the words of command, Sun Tzu began the drill. Then, to the sound of drums, he gave the order, right turn. But the girl only burst out laughing. Sun Tzu said, If words of command are not clear and distinct, if orders are not thoroughly understood, then the general is to blame. So he started drilling them again. This time he gave the order, left turn. Again, the girls burst into fits of laughter. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Ah. Sun Tzu said again. If words command, if words of command are not clear and distinct, if orders are not thoroughly understood, the general is to blame. But his orders are clear, and the soldiers disobey, then it is the fault of their officers. So he ordered the leaders of the two companies to be beheaded. Hey, hey, now Hilarious. The king of Wu was watching from the top of a raised pavilion when he saw that his favorite wife, his favorite concubine, were about to be executed. He quickly sent a message saying, "We are now quite we are now quite satisfied as to as to our general's ability to handle troops. If we are bereft of these two concubines, our meat and drink will lose their savior. It is our wish that they shall not be beheaded." But Sun Tzu replied, "Having once received His Majesty's commission to be the general of his forces, there are certain commands of His Majesty which, acting in that capacity, I am unable to accept." This man is a fucking hardball. He's like, I get it, you're the king, but as the leader of the army, I can't take no bullshit. You know, and if I allow it even from these bitches, then everybody's gonna they can bullshit me, you know, and we're not gonna go for that. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Even though you employ me, they're done. They tested me. Type shit. Okay, they were hard on that, yeah, but let's see how it goes from there. On God, he says, having once received His Majesty's commission to be the general of his forces, there are certain commands of His Majesty which, acting in that capacity, I am unable to accept. Accordingly, he had the two concubines beheaded. Still, like, bro, fuck what you talking about, my boy. He's like, off with their heads. And then installed another pair as their leaders. Instant, like, all right, we got 120 of them, man. Just boom, boom. Pretty sure they know how to do what they were doing. And boom, let's see how this goes now. Orders. Oh, let's try it again. Accordingly, he had the two concubines beheaded and installed another pair as leaders in their place. When the drum was sounded for the drill again, this time the girls turned right and left, marching ahead or wheeling back, knelt or stood as ordered, all with perfect accuracy and precision, and without virtue, and without venturing a sound. Without venturing. One good example. Oh no, two good examples. Everybody following suit quickly. Okay? You just need to set an example, you know? That's the first one, I guess. So then Sun Tzu sent a messenger to the king saying, "Your soldiers, sire, are now properly drilled and disciplined and ready for your majesty's inspection. They can be put to any use that their sovereign may desire. Bid them go through fire and water, and they will not disobey." After that, Hola saw that Sun Tzu knew how to handle an army, and finally made him a general. In the west, he defeated the Chu state and forced his way into Yin, the capital. To the north, he put fear into the states of Qi and Shen, and spread his fame abroad amongst the feudal princes. And Sun Tzu shared in the might of the king. In the introduction to his famous 1910 translation of The Art of War, illustrated by liTcAl, cast no doubt on this account, pointing out that the great contemporary chronicle of this period, the Sanshun, failed to mention Sun Tzu, and just to mention ALG cast on doubt on this account, whatever that means. Lionel Giles cast doubt on this account. He pointed out the great contemporary chronicle of this period. Failed to mention that the Sushan failed to mention Sun Tzu. Where are we getting? It says among the Wu generals that invaded Shu, uh, thou lesser figures are mentioned, has led some to conclude that Sun Tzu did not exist and that the art of war is a compilation of other authors. Wait, wait a minute. It says this has led some to conclude that Sun Tzu did not exist. Wait, that's what I'm thinking, right? There's no way. Is this in real time? That's what I did, bro, when I saw it. So it says, wait a minute, let's go back a little bit more. So I'm not missing context. In the introduction to his famous 1910 translation of The Art of War, reprinted here, Lionel Giles cast doubt on this account. He pointed out that the great contemporary chronicle of this period, the Suzhan, failed to mention Sun Tzu. Okay, among the Wu generals that invaded Shu, though lesser figures are mentioned, this has led some to conclude that Sun Tzu did not exist, and that the art of war is a compilation of other authors. From his intimate knowledge of the text, Giles concluded that the art of war was the work of a single author, and pointed out that a foreigner in Wu Sun Tzu would not have had the civil rank that was needed to become a general at that time. Clearly, from his writing, the author had practical experience of warfare and had been involved in the attack of uh, in the attack of Chu in 512 BC and the capture of Ying in 506 BC. However, in the text he mentions conflict with Yu Yi. The Wu first Ya the Wu first attacked the Ya in 510 BC. So the art of war could not have been written before 510 BC. As Suma Qian maintained, the Ya struck back when the Wu were in Chu in 505 BC. It's a long introduction. It says the Wu then counterattacked in 496 BC, but were defeated, and Holu was killed. In chapter 6 of The Art of War, Sun Tzu writes, though according to my estimate, the soldiers of Ye exceeded our own in number, that shall advantage them nothing in the matter of victory. I say then that victory can be achieved. This sentence, Giles maintained, was hardly one that could have been written in the full flush of victory, as Ho Lu died in 496 BC. If the book was written for him, it must have been written during the period 505 496 BC, when there was a uh, lull in the hostilities. Sun Tzu's name does not appear in the historical record again after the death of Ho Lu, but there is no reason to believe that he did not survive to participate in the short-lived resurgence of the Wu Hu under Fu Chai E, captured the capital of Ye in 494 BC. The Ye hit back in 482 BC, finally destroying the state of Wu in 473 BC. Interesting. Giles believed that the art of war could also have been written between 496, 494, or 482 and 473 BC. Suma Xian's source might be confused, and the drilling of the concubines could have been a preliminary exercise for the work. It is also possible that Holu saw an early draft of the manuscript before 512 BC, which was revised later after hostilities with the Ye broke out. while Suma Xian mentioned 13 chapters, and 13 chapters are presented here. Some early accounts of the art of war said that there were 82 PN or chapters. There are several theories about what happened to the other chapters. Gauss pointed out that in some shorter works, PN is taken to mean leaves. Sun Tzu works may have been bound with the work of other military theorists or various commentaries. It also is thought that the other chapters were records of conversations between Sun Tzu and Ho Lu, discussing the finer points of strategy. One of these appears in the Pangtian, an encyclopedic work on government compiled in the 8th century, an ad by the Mandarin Tuyu called Nine Configurations and Two Questions. It appears as a 14th chapter in some editions of The Art of War. Then in 1972, a number of texts engraved on bamboo were found in a grave in Shandong province. Among them were the 13 chapters of Sun Tzu's Art of War. Though the manuscript was a millennium older than any then known. So the manuscript was a millennium older than any then known. Alongside were another 33 chapters, but these concern the practicalities of warfare rather than military strategy and are thought to be the work of descendants of Sun Tzu's, possibly his grandson named Sun Pen, Sun the Mutilated. He was said to have been a great general who, according to Suma Xian, had his feet cut off and yet continued to discuss the art of war. Sun Pen was also reputed to have written a book on warfare that had been lost, and the 33 newly discovered chapters are now published as Sun Pen's The Lost Art of War. The 13 chapters presented here are those that have been regarded as the works of the military genius Sun Tzu since ant- antiquity. This is wait, am I saying that right though? Double bad, double bad. I want to say I did. I think I did and I didn't. What does it mean? Antiquity. Antiquity. Okay. Antiquity means the distant past, particularly the time before the Middle Ages in historical context is most commonly means classical antiquity, the era of Greco-Roman civilization between the 8th century BC. It means absolutely fucking nothing. Distant past. Antique. I guess that's where we get the word antique. One more time. Antiquity. 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 I'm probably still saying antiquity. 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 It's a funny word. Yeah, just straight up on to on to on. 13 chapters are from a distant past. Clearly. It says this is the work that inspired Napoleon, Mao Zedong, et al., and and this classic 1910 it is this classic 1910 translation that would have been pored over by Fuller, Liddell Hart, Montgomery, and Patton, while the Allies faced Panzer, commanders who had drawn their inspiration from the same source. In the West, the art of war now has a readership outside military strategists. One of Sun Tzu's great concerns was the politics of war, so it is essential reading for politicians, diplomats, and those involved in international relations. Business gurus now teach the art of war, using Sun Tzu's view of warfare as a metaphor for the struggle for global markets. To the Chinese, though, it remains one of the great pillars for classical literature. For some 2,500 years, Sun Tzu's treatise has had something profound to say about the human condition. The world is no less warlike than it was when the Chinese were slugging it out in the spring and autumn 770 through 476 BC, and the Warring States 475 through 221 BC periods. Before the first emperor, Shi Ti, united China, so undoubtedly, Sun Tzu has something to say to us now. It is also ironic to note that Sun Tzu, perhaps the greatest writer on war, was alive and at work at the same time as China's most illustrious man of peace. Illustrious man of peace. Illustrious man of peace. The great sage. Yeah, looking that one up. Conspicuous. Well, no, conspicuous. Confucius. Confucius. I'm gonna figure it out. This is the name that I'm butchering. Confucius. 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 Man, I hit it right over there. Confucius. 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 What I thought it was. Next. That's a big man. I didn't even know it like that. Confucius. I said I was very Confucius. I don't know how to say it, my boy. All right, so chapter one. Finally, after that long ass intro fucking introduction, dog. Chapter one is on page 30 in it. No, 28. And it's laying plans. Give me a drink of water. That fucking introduction has me quench. Sure. And I said I was Yes, Lord. Thank you.
everything that you provide for us on Earth, man. Y'all know about that red Kool-Aid, man. Yes, Lord. Get into this chapter 1, man. Not before minor refreshment. You got a lot of candle. Yep, candle. 1 a.m. We like candle. Hey, like this video if you know somebody that like candles at 1 a.m. If you fuck around and find this video, you made it to this point. It's 1:30. You know somebody like candles. Candle. It's a Sun Tzu. This is chapter 1, line 1. Sun Tzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors to be taken into account in one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. These are the moral law, heaven, earth, the commander, method, and discipline. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler so that they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. Heaven signifies night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons. Earth comprises distances, great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow paces, the chances of life and death, success or failure. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. By method and discipline are to be understood the marshalling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the graduations of rank among the officers, the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army, and the control of military expenditure. These 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious. He who knows them will not fail. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of a comparison in this wise. 1. Which of 2 sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? 2. Which of the 2 generals has most ability? 3. With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? 4. On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? 5. Which army is stronger? 6. On which side are officers and men more highly trained? 7. In which army is there the greater constancy both in reward and punishment? By means of these seven considerations, I can forecast victory or defeat. The general that hearkens to my counsel and act upon it will conquer. Let such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel, nor acts upon it, will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed. While heading, while heeding the profit of my counsel, avail yourself also of any helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. According to circumstances, according as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. All warfare is based on deception. Let this sink in. Let this sink in. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. Hold our baits to entice the enemy, feign disorder, and crush him. If he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is superior in strength, evade him. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. If his forces are united, separate them. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. These military devices leading to victory must not be divulged beforehand. Now the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple. Aired. The battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but a few calculations beforehand. Thus do many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat. How much more no calculation at all? It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. Chapter 2, Waging War. As illustrated, Sun Tzu said, in the operations of war, where there are in the field, where there are in the field 1,000 swift chariots, as many heavy chariots, and 100,000 mail clad soldiers with provisions enough to carry them 1,000 li, the expenditure at home and at the front, including entertainment of guests, small items such as glue and paint, and some spent on chariots and armor will reach the total of 1,000 ounces of silver per day. Such is the cost of raising an army of 1,000 men. When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, then men's weapons will grow dull and their ardor will be damped. If you lay siege to a town, you will exhaust your strength. Again, if the campaign is protracted, the resources of the state will not be equal to the strain. Now, when your weapons are dulled, your ardor dampened, your strength exhausted, and your treasure spent, other chieftains will spring up to take advantage of your extremity. Then no man, however wise, will be able to avert the consequences that must ensue. Thus thou we have heard of stupid haste in war. Cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. It is only thoroughly acquainted with the evils of war who can thoroughly understand the profitable way of carrying it on. The skillful soldier does not raise a second levy, neither are his supply wagons loaded more than twice. Bring war material with you from home, but forage on the enemy. Thus the army will have food enough for its needs. Poverty of the state acquired causes an army to be maintained by contributions from a distance. Contributing to maintain an army at a distance causes the people to be impoverished. On the other hand, the proximity of an army causes prices to go up, and high prices cause the people substance to be drained. When their substance is drained away, the peasantry will be afflicted by heavy exactions. With this loss of substance and exhaustion of strength, the homes of the people will be stripped bare, and three-tenths of their income will be dissipated, while government expenses for broken chariots, worn horses, breastplates, and helmets bow, and arrows, spears, and shields, protective mantles, drought, oxen, and heavy wagons will amount to four-tenths of its total revenue. Hence, a wise general makes a point of foraging on the enemy. One cartload of the enemy's provisions is equivalent to 20 of one's own, and likewise a single pecule 14 of his provender is equivalent to 20 from one's own store. Now, in order to kill the enemy, our men must be roused to anger, that there may be advantage from defeating the enemy. They must have rewards. Therefore, in chariot fighting, when 10 or more chariots have been taken, those should be rewarded who took the first, or own flags should be substituted for those of the enemy, and the chariots mingled and used in conjunction with ours. the captured soldier, the captured soldiers should be kindly treated and kept. This is called using the conquered foe to augment one's own strength. In war, then let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns. Thus it mean thus it may be known that the leader of armies is the arbiter of the people's fate, the man on whom it depends whether the nations shall be in peace or in peril. All right, we're gonna pause this series right there. It's almost 2 o'clock. um, I may go ahead and read this next chapter, chapter 3. It's not too long. It's not too long at all. It's not long at all. It's like 5 pages. Go ahead and extend this video to an hour. Read chapter 3. It says attack stratagems. Go ahead and 3 out of 13, 10 more to go. Sun Tzu said, in the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good. So to it is better to capture an army entire than to destroy it. To capture a regiment, a detachment, or a company entire than to destroy them. Hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Thus, the highest form of generalship is to balk the enemy's plans. The next best is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces. The next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field, and the worst policy of all is to besiege walled cities. The rule is not to besiege walled cities if it can possibly be avoided. The preparation of mantlets, movable shelters, and various implements of war will take up 3 whole months, and the piling up of mounds against the walls will take 3 months more. The general, unable to control his irritation, will launch his men to the assault like swarming ants, with the result that 1/3 of his men are slain, while town still remains untaken. Such are the disastrous effects of a siege. Therefore, the skillful leader subdues the enemy troops without any fighting. He captures their cities without laying siege to them. He overthrows their kingdoms without lengthy operations in the field. With his forces intact, he will dispute the mastery of the empire, and thus, without losing a man, his triumph will be complete. This is the method of attacking by stratagem. It is the rule in war, if our forces are 10 to the enemy's 1, to surround him; if 5 to 1, to attack him; if twice as numerous, to divide our army into 2; if equally matched, we can offer battle; if slightly inferior in numbers, we can avoid the enemy; if quite unequal in every way, we can flee from him. Hence, though an obstinate fight may be made by a small force, in the end it must be captured by the larger force. Now the general is the bulwark of the state. If the bulwark is complete at all points, the state will be strong. If the bulwark is defective, the state will be weak. There are 3 ways in which a ruler can bring misfortune upon his army: by commanding the army to advance or to retreat, being ignorant of the fact that it cannot obey. This is called hobbling the army. By attempting to govern an army in the same way as he administers a kingdom, being ignorant of the conditions which obtain in an army. This causes relentlessness in the soldiers' minds. By employing the officers of his army without discrimination, though through ignorance of the military principle of adaptation to circumstances. This shakes the confidence of the soldiers. But when the army is restless and distrustful, trouble is sure to come. From the other feudal princes, this is simply bringing anarchy into the army. This is simply bringing anarchy into the army. Flinging victory away like it's nothing. Thus, we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. And they go as follows. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. He will win who prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. He will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy, you know yourself. You need not fear the result of 100 battles if you know yourself, but not the enemy. For every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Tactical dispositions, chapter 4. I'll keep reading. I'll be exactly where I was at in no time. But I ain't gonna do all that. What chapter was I on? Chapter 9? Yeah, I ain't gonna do all that tonight. I'll probably stop by chapter 5 for sure. So, chapter 4 says tactical dispositions. Sun Tzu said, the good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. Thus, the good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. Hence the saying, we may know how to conquer without being able to do it. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. Standing on the defensive indicates insufficient strength, attacking a superabundance of strength. The general who is skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth. He who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the topmost heights of heaven. Thus, on the one hand, we have the ability to protect ourselves, on the other, a victory that is complete. To see victory only when it is within the ken of the common herd is not the akim of excellence, neither is it the akim of excellence if you fight and conquer, and the whole empire says, well done. To lift an autumn leaf is no sign of great strength. To see the sun and moon is no sign of sharp sight. To hear the noise of thunder and no sign of quick ear is no sign of a quick ear. What the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins but excels in winning with ease. Hence, his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage. He wins his battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. Hence, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes a defeat impossible, and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. Thus, It is that in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory. The consummate leader cultivates the moral law and strictly adheres to method and discipline. Thus, it is his power to control success. In respect of military method, we have firstly measurement, secondly estimation of quantity, thirdly calculations, fourthly balancing of chances, fifthly victory. Measurements owes its existence to earth, estimation of quantity to measurement, calculation to estimation of quantity, balancing of chances to calculation, and victory to balancing of chances. A victorious army opposed to a routed one is a pond weight placed in the scale against a single grain. The onrush of a conquering force is is like the bursting of pent up waters into a chasm 1,000 fathoms deep. I gotta read chapter 5, dog. Energy. Just got the energy to go ahead and read chapter 5. And we'll stop there, man. We'll stop it here at chapter 5. Sun Tzu said the control of a large force is the same principle as the control of a few men. It is merely a question of dividing up their numbers. Fighting with a large army under your command is in no way different from fighting with a small one. It is merely a question of instituting signs and signals. To ensure that your whole host may withstand the brunt of the enemy, attack and remain unshaken. This is effected by maneuvers direct and indirect, that the impact of your army may be like a grindstone dashed against an egg. This is effected by the science of weak points and strong. In all fighting, the direct method may be used for joining battle, but indirect methods will be needed in order to secure victory. Indirect tactics, efficiently applied, are inexhaustible as heaven and earth, unending as the flow of rivers and streams like the sun and moon. They end but to begin anew like the four seasons they pass away to return once more. There are more than five musical notes, yet the combinations of these five give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. There are not more than five primary colors: blue, yellow, red, white, and black. Yet in combination, they produce more hues than can ever be seen. There are not more than five cardinal tastes: sour, acrid, salt, sweet, and bitter. Yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. In battle, there are not more than two methods of attack: the direct and the indirect, yet these two in combination give rise to an endless series of maneuvers. The direct and the indirect lead on to each other in turn. It is like moving in a circle. You never come to an end. Who can exhaust the possibilities of their combination? The onset of troops is like the rush of a torrent, which will even roll stones along in its course. The quality of decisions is like the well timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victims. Therefore, the good fighter will be terrible in his onset and prompt in his decision. Energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision to the releasing of a trigger. Amid the turmoil and tumult of battle, there may be seeming disorder, and yet no real disorder at all. Amid confusion and chaos, your array may be without head or tail, yet it will be proof against defeat. Simulated disorder postulates perfect discipline, stimulated fear postulates courage, simulated weakness postulates strength. Hiding under beneath the cloak of disorder is simply a question of subdivision, concealing courage under a show of timidity. Presupposes a fount of latent energy. Masking strength with weakness is to be affected by tactical dispositions. Thus, one who is skillful at keeping the enemy on the move maintains deceitful appearances, according to which the enemy will act. He sacrifices something that the enemy may snatch at him. By holding out baits, he keeps him on the march. Then with a body of picked men he lies in wait for him. The clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy and does not require too much from individuals, hence his ability to pick out the right men and utilize combined energy. When he utilizes combined energy, his fighting men become as it were like unto rolling logs or stones, for it is the nature of a log or stone to remain motionless on level ground, and now to move when on a slope. If for concern to come to a standstill, but if round shape to go rolling down, thus the energy developed by good fighting men is as the momentum of a round stone rolling down the mountain, thousands of feet in height, so much on the subject of energy. Bam. I'm gonna stop it right there. Chapter 6, weak points and strong points. Good night.